And we're back with this Rathian's taint.
What a way to come in right under his bunghole.
Yep, we talk over Monster Hunter World. We're back at it, and now we're going to talk about humans banging things in Middle-earth.
So,
Please tell me there was a half human, half ant.
Oh, God. Oh, that takes me down another tangent. Now, did you ever watch... No, you probably did not watch True Blood because you don't like real people shows. True Blood? It was an HBO series?
I watched a scene of lesbianism, and that's it.
Okay, so...
That's what matters in the real world.
There was a guy on that show. The actor who played him was the same guy who played Dr. Phlox in Star Trek Enterprise, which makes this even better. But
I also don't know who that is.
That's all right. So, like, at one point, like, there's this, like, I don't know, this was there was a lot of dumb storylines in True Blood, though. But there was this dumb storyline where, like, this Sylvan monster thingy from Greek mythology was, like, making everybody, like, go crazy and have lots of crazy sex and do debauch things. And the dude in question was, like, in jail, and he was in jail for violating a tree. And he was like, I got splinters in my pecker. But that's when you said half it. That's all. That's where I went.
It also remembers, you remember, have you ever watched any Robot Chicken?
I have seen some Robot Chicken.
There's one where someone sticks a molasses spout or something onto a tree. And then someone shows them how, I don't remember exactly what it was, but someone starts stroking it or something like that.
Oh, God.
And the tree, they give the tree eyes, and it's just like, All right. So, Middle-earth.
Middle-earth. So, you asked if there was any half-creatures in Middle-earth.
God, I can't wait to title this thing.
And turns out there are a ton of half-creatures in Middle-earth. Like, so half-elves, super common.
Okay, hold on. You're saying half-elves.
Yeah.
So, we're assuming that all of these hybrids are human.
Human? One human, one elf parent. Yeah.
Well, one human, one anything when we get to all of these.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. So a half elf. Yeah, right. That's the other thing that these fantasy things always do, right?
They assume humans.
Something, right? Apparently, if you're... so is a human like a half human? Because they have a human parent and a human parent? No. They could be, though. All right, so this is a term.
Oh, that's the... What's his name? Nick Offerman? He did a thing where he was just reading... Like, people would send things in for him to read.
Oh, right.
And he did, technically, we're all half centaur.
Yes.
And then he couldn't even keep a straight face on that one. But, proceed.
So,
Starting with half-elves.
Half-elves. So, like, yeah, there's a bunch of them. Elrond, actually, a fucking half-elf. You wouldn't even know it, right?
What?
Yeah, he's a half-elf.
What?
And blown away. And then, of course, like, the Uruk-hai that Saruman breeds aren't in the books. They're not Uruk-hai. Uruk-hai were actually already existed. They were something that Sauron created like a long time ago.
Okay.
What Saruman was breeding was half-orcs.
Orcs and humans?
Orcs and humans.
But he was growing them, right?
But yeah, I don't know if he was really... Tolkien never actually goes into detail about how they're made. Maybe for maybe because he didn't want to detail rape. Maybe because... who knows?
You couldn't amass an army just like, okay, go have sex and then now we're going to have adult beasts.
Right, no, that's true. The half-orcs weren't necessarily armies. They, like... He would breed them, though, to be, like, spies and stuff to go into human lands because humans would see them and just think that they're really fucking ugly dudes. Oh, wait, I need my flash pod. But, okay.
That reminds me of... Did you see the Warcraft movie?
I did, yeah.
You can't ugly Paula Patton.
Was that the drain?
That was the
whatever she was?
The lady orc.
Yeah.
She wasn't a half, I don't think.
She wasn't... No, she wasn't pure orc. That was like the big thing with it. She was orc and something else. You're talking about
else?
Else.
No, it was Paula Patton's character. I thought she was full orc.
I don't think so.
I mean, maybe she's in the game and therefore people already know that she's not just because that's already been covered. But I don't remember the movie alluding to her being something different.
I think isn't that why like Gul'dan was so mean to her?
I don't know.
And everyone didn't like her because she wasn't pure-blooded orc.
I thought it was that she was another tribe.
But you're talking about the chick that was like a prisoner and stuff, right?
The one that he kisses at the end or something?
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about the same person.
But still, it's just like...
Because you weren't talking about... Because they actually had a female orc in there.
They did have female orcs, and so I was still thinking... I don't know. You're right. They had female orcs. It was obvious that she was very different. But to me, it was just... unless this character was already in the lore of the games, and I'm not even talking about World of Warcraft, because this goes on to lore from before that.
Yeah, right.
I was thinking that it was just like, okay, you're just trying to sexify an orc to give fanboys boners or something. I mean, you can put Paula Patton in fucking anything, and I will still want her. But it's just don't do that. Don't. But I didn't know that she was a half anything.
I think she was like.
So it makes sense that she would be.
They had this one species in the lore. I don't know the Warcraft lore super well. Called a Drane.
Okay.
I don't know. It's Dranei, I believe is how it's spelled.
Okay.
But they're like they're like blue goat people. So, but I thought she was supposed to be like half that and half orc, because she wasn't. Because like this is before the orcs came to Azeroth, right? So they hadn't seen humans yet. So she couldn't have been like half human, half orc. But I don't know.
That's not well, okay.
But
so anyway, back to Warcraft
Middle Earth. Middle Earth, yeah. So like with elves, when you have half elves, it's weird because it's not like they're necessarily different than elves per se, because they end up having to make a choice at some point in life to either live their life as like a human or live their life as an elf. And although if they choose human, they'll still be elf-like. They will eventually die.
Well, that was presented in the movie, and that had to do with love or something.
Right. That was Arwen's shtick, right?
I didn't. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. She was his daughter,
but she's a half elf.
But no, she's 3/4 elf, wouldn't she be?
Unless this is where things get murky.
So unless Elrond met another half elf and had a kid with and had Arwen with her,
right.
In which case she would still be half.
Right.
Okay.
Right, but then that question you got to ask: how are the alleles working here? Like,
what the fuck is that?
An allele?
Yeah.
Like the thing, so that's like when you have your genetics, right? Like things that determine like your traits, like your eye color, your hair color. They call them alleles.
Right.
So like to have brown eyes, you have to have a brown allele. To have blue eyes, you have to have 2 blue alleles and no brown allele.
Right. I remember how the genetics matching up, and some are dominant, and some are recessive, and all that.
So then, of course, you have the question like, if you have 2 half elves, like which alleles are which? Like, can 2 half elves produce a human?
I don't think that's the case. But so the whole thing about that in the movie, and I thought in the book, it didn't have to do. It was never mentioned that Elrond was a half human that I remember, and definitely not Arwen. So I didn't know that that's why she was making that choice. I thought she was making that choice so that she could die with him eventually.
And the only reason she could make that choice is because she was considered half elven. Because like regular elves can't actually make that choice.
Okay, so how does that work? Do they go to a certain place? That seems fragile, because what if that place doesn't exist anymore?
It's mystical in nature. Wait, what do you mean they go to a certain place? Like when they die, or
to make this choice?
Oh no, yeah, it's just magical in nature, right? Because that's the part of it too. Is like Tolkien's mythology was, it was supposed to kind of lead into Earth. And so like what the elves eventually become is like the fairies of the fairy tales in British Isles and stuff.
Right.
And
those get fucking weird.
Right, yeah. But like
the Irish one, I think, starts with first there was a fish, and then it went on land and became a human. But it's a specific kind of fish too.
Oh.
And then eventually it was a woman. And then it breeds with something and makes humans, and then she turns back into a fish and goes back into the water forever, or something like that. It's I don't know. I've been checking out a bunch of different mythologies over the past year for various reasons, and I'm butchering it entirely and probably getting it all wrong, but barely right. So, but there's some unique stuff out there.
Yeah. Although I don't know how much Tolkien would have done Irish, since he was English and probably an asshole to Irish people. Because he lived in the 1920s. But who knows? He might have been a nice guy.
Turn of the 20th.
But like, yeah. So, elves are very magical in nature to begin with, right? So like making this choice isn't like anything realistic or, scientific or anything. But like, so you can definitely get half elves. Saruman, he made half orcs. There are no half dwarves though, because I don't know. Apparently there's no half dwarves because
there are no dwarf women.
There are no dwarf. There are.
They're born out of rock.
They were made from rock. Although, did you know that? Aule, the craftsman.
I remember the gods all making things out of things, and so that's fine.
Yeah, well, it was like the valor of craftsmanship and stuff, or the Vala, I should say, not the valor. The valor is like the plural form.
Okay.
He was the one who made the dwarves, and then he got in a little bit of trouble for it because he wasn't supposed to, because it was only going to be Iluvatar, like Eru Iluvatar, I think is what he goes by, like the main, like the god, right? Mm-hmm. And he was the one who was making people, like humans and elves. The dwarves were not meant to be part of this plan necessarily, but once they were made, he wasn't going to get rid of them. He just, the rule he set was that they just weren't allowed to wake up before elves. The elves were going to be the first people. Gotcha. So random mythology there.
Any other half things?
So that's what I'm trying to think of. Like, what else was there? Half trolls. Half trolls existed in that world.
So a human had sex with a troll.
I don't know if it's a human or an orc. But because it is, actually, you know what? It is a man. It is. It was human because because again, we're talking. Like, I'm not trying to bash Tolkien on this, right? Like, even good people, like if you want to call someone like a good person, they are still a product of their times, right? I mean, think about the things that we used to use as like slang terminology when we were kids, or that we even probably still use now. That, like my kids will probably never use because it's just not cool, right? Like as in like not acceptable. Like so there's there is a fair amount of like racism sort of in this like Middle Earth mythology.
Well, when you told me the whole ending of all of that stuff was that fucking Mordor became the Middle East.
Basically, yeah. Mordor basically becomes the Middle East and Gondor is Rome. Like, that's basically what it is.
And it's protecting the rest of the world from the Middle East, and it's just, come on.
Like, I mean, think about, like, the evil humans in Middle Earth. Yeah, like, they're not the fair-skinned, people of Western Middle Earth, right? Like, they're not the fair-skinned people that are like descended from the elves either, or anything like that. No. These are the evil ones. Are like the dark-skinned people from the East. Like, wow. All right, Tolkien, that's kind of ambitious, but whatever. But again, like he probably. I mean, I'm not gonna say he was an asshole because he might not have been, right? Like, I mean, he just lived in a time period where people generally were assholes, especially like. Oh, yeah, I'm coming out from underneath the desk, guys.
You don't have to comment about it every time, especially like that, but whatever.
It sounds cool when I say it like that. But let's
get back to why you brought this up with the half-orc thing, or half-troll.
Half-trolls, yeah. The half-trolls were supposed to be bred between trolls and the men of Far Harad. Far Harad basically being, like Middle Earth's equivalent of Arabs.
Jeez.
So yeah, if you want to make half-elves, you breed elves with goodly Westerners, and if you want to make half-trolls, you breed trolls with Arabs, I guess. I don't know. That's Tolkien's myths.
I still think that there was... I mean, even when you read about things like... if you go through a lot of Arab history, especially when you start to look up all of their academics... And when you start to go through Indian history and how their long history of being pretty fucking tolerant, and when you go through and you start to learn about the Mongols and how they handled religion and cultures, I can't use the excuse of, well, he existed in the turn of the 20th century.
Yeah. So, I mean...
there are plenty of examples of people who still were over that, and it just seems like he wasn't... above that.
So the thing I would say though is keep in mind, no, Lamech.
This happened to me too.
The thing I was gonna say is like not just a product of times, also, but just a product of culture, right?
Yeah.
Because like Europeans,
but he also fought in World War I before he wrote these things.
True.
So, I don't know, a respect, and he hated the death, and he had a respect for his fellow man, but I don't know, I guess not all of them.
I mean, let's not kid ourselves. There is a huge chunk of time, and Tolkien lived right near the end of this time, where Europe absolutely believed that they were the center of the world. Right? Like, I mean, European imperialism, like, the British Empire was still the largest political body in existence during his lifetime.
I remember, so this leads me into one thing. I guess this might be the last thing we have on the subject. It's about time anyway. But there was, I I remember reading a quote from him saying that he didn't have that the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit, all of that, none of it was allegorical, which is weird in what we know now. But my honors English teacher had us read The Hobbit. She didn't want us to, but we did. And so it was just part of the curriculum, whatever. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing was about what he was saying was that there's nothing allegorical in there. He's not trying to talk about something. He's not... Yeah. I don't think he was referencing something like... Okay, it's not an Animal Farm, because I doubt Animal Farm was out. But he was saying that's not... And then... So she had been saying, because it's her job to interpret readings in a certain way, because that's what English teachers do.
Yeah.
And so I told her that this quote that he had read, because she wasn't learned on Tolkien, she just taught this book because she had to. And then she kind of had that look on her face and looked at me and she said, well, he wrote it. And she said it, she emphasized the he, and she said it in such a way that made me think, okay, her point here is that this book was written by a human. There are influences in this book no matter what. And so I did take that from her. I wanted to believe Tolkien, but I mean, that's just one of the many things I learned from her. Mrs. Piner, thank you.
That's actually what I was going to say too. Like, even the Tolkien's like, there's nothing allegorical here. It's like, but you're a dude who lives in a world, and you're going to be taking like the things around you as like influences and stuff.
Even me, when we're talking about how... we'll talk about this in the next episode and then get back into Star Wars. But, for now, we are done talking.
Forever. That's a lie. We'll be back soon, guys.